Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another, I hesitate to say exciting episode because it's more of a discussion, but interesting episode of Phantom Legacy. Discussion on Babylon 5. We're going to be beginning with season 3. Uh, Honestly, don't know how many parts this will be because we're really getting to the crux of the show, of everything coming together. This is when the show really explodes for those who are watching, had been watching for the past 2 seasons. Of course, joining me today is Mike from Pacific 414.
Good evening, all.
We have Cash Monet of Phantom Hooligans. Almost said V beforehand, and I know I can't do that.
Yo.
And we have Lord Krit from Everest Productions, a very talented man himself, and knowledgeable. And he's also Norca. And we cannot forget the court jester of Pop Talk, Phil McCracken himself.
King and legend.
King and legend, yeah. In his own mind, folks.
That's
so
right.
I trust everybody's day's been going well. I'm actually pumped because the All Blacks won today against Ireland. So they're moving on in the World Cup of rugby. But I suppose none of your I don't think anybody else's day has been that exciting.
I was just working on video intros and stuff for the channel.
Mm-hmm. It's like, how can I get Baron's name out of this one?
Oh no, I wouldn't do
that. So, without any further ado, we're going to dive right on in to the first episode of that season. The episode is called Matter of Honor, or Matters of Honor, the plural, my apologies on that. This takes place almost immediately after the season finale. If people don't know, that's when, of course, the Centauri attacked Babylon 5, trying to get a renegade Narn ship. Causing damage, of course, to the station. They had an assassination attempt on our dear Captain Sheridan, who was able to escape by first jumping from the magnetic lift, or what do you want to call it, that goes from one end of the station to the other, where it's virtually 0G. But as he's falling closer and closer to the station floor, Kosh reveals himself. And by revealing himself, everybody except for, and of course, Hail Mouse, everyone except for Londo saw an angelic version of a being in their mythology or religion. And basically that's where we're kind of left as like we don't know what's exactly happening here, except everything's falling apart. Now, because we did have a character last season pass away, that was Lieutenant Kiefer, who nobody liked. Nobody liked this character. Nobody, including J. Michael Krasinski, who had it forced upon him by the networks. But the only time he said that they actually interfered and said, "Hey, we need to have like a Maverick character in there." And I guess the actor himself is a bit of a pain in the ass with the cast. So nobody was shedding a tear, but he sent a message that showed the shadow ship blowing them into whatever it was in hyperspace. So now we have an Earth official now coming by to ask questions about this. He wants to know what's going on with this. We have Londo Malari himself, who is starting to regret his deal with Mr. Morden. He's trying to back out of this little situation. And Sheridan gets a gift from Glenn on his battle against the upcoming Shadow War. Gentlemen, so with all that said, the ship, of course, the gift, of course, is the White Star. Basically, Babylon 5's version of the Defiant, a little gunship that can go around and kick ass and take names. Of course, Morgan has come back in this one to do his little shenanigans. And we learn a little bit more as this investigator is going around poking questions. By the way, I believe the investigator is played by Bernie Casey himself as the investigator, who was not credited for this episode, believe it or not. And how that's kind of disturbing on everything. And as we go in there, we find out that Kosh has not been seen. And there, needless to say, Sheridan is kind of concerned about that, why he hasn't been seen. His response was, it basically put a strain on him by being seen by so many people. Obviously, the psychic projection that the Vorlons have. So we actually have never seen truly what a Vorlon looks like, but the projection that they put upon the lesser races. And to put it mildly, this is basically we're coming to the very end of the Second Age of Mankind, and in this season we will be seeing the dawn of the Third Age, the true Third Age. Gentlemen, anything you have to sit back and say about this episode as we're going along, with especially with Bernie Casey probing, asking questions, trying to figure out what this video was that they got all about?
I thought that the investigative part with Bernie Casey was pretty good, going around asking questions, trying to see if everything's on the up and up on Babylon 5. And then, of course, you have the introduction of the White Star, and that's one nice looking ship.
Mm-hmm.
Very sleek.
Very sleek indeed. And along with the White Star, we get a new member to this little cabal, if you want to call it a cabal. That is, of course, Marcus himself, the Ranger.
The Ranger, yeah.
So he takes.
And he adds a lot to this show for sure. His personality, he's willing to sacrifice himself if he has to, and he's then, of course, as we find out, his life was definitely not easy, especially growing up, and how how Delin explains his life, and but he's a good addition to the show because a lot of personality there, and he's quirky and stuff. And even when we get into where Franklin and the Ranger Marcus, their banter back and forth. So yeah, he adds a lot to the show.
Yeah, good actor. Great actor he is too, doing that. He does, of course, a lot of voice work in various stuff, including the Star Wars franchises. So, if you're not familiar with him, you more than likely have heard him in one fashion or another with the video games and such. While we're at it, before we go on too further, I want to say hi to Jace from 5 Studios. Hey, good talking with you. And, of course, we had a great time, Cash and I, talking with Mike Barron the other day. And I don't know why I'm even highlighting this.
I don't know, man.
The court jester. So
the court jester himself. Yeah.
Somebody got to keep cash money in the Baron in line.
Uh-huh. This is what happens.
It keeps the lights on, Baron.
This
It keeps the lights on.
He doesn't stop, Baron. He's the court
I know,
jester for sure.
never does.
Staying on easy mode.
And you're absolutely right. British people are all over, not just Star Wars galaxy, but all
It's
the
true.
galaxies. Like, yeah, the British Empire.
Because they're evil. Their
right.
accent proves that they're evil.
Exactly. Right.
I
Well,
like the British
explain Marcus.
accent. I like
What
the
about-
sound and the twang of the British accent.
Well, wasn't a lot of the original Star Wars was filmed in places in the UK, so
You
Well,
know,
yeah,
this is. Did you know
Not
that
all of
this actress is the wife of Quark, Armin Shimmerman?
Mm-hmm.
really good actor. He was very good in Buffy too.
Mhm. And of course, she played an official with the Earth Force government, which we'll kind of get a little bit more into as we go along. And look what we got here. Look what we got there. It's just
Another
smiling
actor
away.
on the left who's been in a
Mhm.
lot of things too. I can't
Yeah,
think
Tucker
of his-
Smallwood.
That's
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
You do notice in Babylon 5, most of the women tend to be redheads or auburns. So, of course, for certain individual here doesn't like red.
Right, sure.
Mhm.
No, look, one thing I love about this show, and I know this is a 90s show, but you know what? Women, get ready for it. They actually look like women. I know it's
Mhm.
scary.
Mhm.
You
Well,
mean
yeah,
they
that's
don't
just
look
their-
like non-women? Or
Non-women, no.
Centauri? Women?
Centauri with their bald heads.
Well, but that's the one
and
thing
the hair
too,
on
is
side or
Oh.
the back. Excuse me.
yeah, go ahead. Mhm. And that's the one thing though, is throughout this show, no matter what, the women are not shrinking violets. These are strong
Oh,
women. They can go
yes.
toe to toe with the men in their
Oh,
own
yes.
fashion, their own way. I mean, right off the bat, Ivanova. She,
Oh my
you don't want to
gosh,
mess
dude,
with
she-
Ivanova. Mhm.
Nope.
No, she's
I want her on my side in a fight.
yes.
Yeah, in a heartbeat. And after the fight, if you know what I mean, hum it up. But yeah, I still have a thing for you, Claudia Christian. If you're out there,
She does a lot of voice
She's
work
still
now.
beautiful.
It's crazy.
She's
Yeah.
still beautiful.
oh yeah, she is still beautiful. She does a lot of voice work and all and such. So even though she might not have a presence in front of the screen, you hear her voice around there. So
Right.
and basically, we're finding out here, especially with these scenes here. If we notice, of course, here's Mr. Morden, but he's not on Babylon 5. He's not on Narn. Oh, what's this over here? That's a Psychor logo. He's on Earth.
Mhm.
Of course, they're concerned about what was seen. Because what is Morden's connection with Earth?
Once again, though, Mr. Morton is he's the definition, I would say, of a slick oil salesman. But he is just he'll smile in your face and stab you in the back. But and it's not really surprised what happens to him and the fact that he's possessed. But getting ahead of myself.
Right. Yeah, you are kind of, but that's okay. We start learning a little bit more about him, and actually, there is a good book where they do go a little bit into Morden, the backstory of Morden. Actually, I don't have the name of the book off the top of my pointed little skull, but with that though, he's got double duty, Mister Moulton, because not only is he working with Earth to try to figure out what's going on with the shadows, but he's got to deal with Londo Malari himself, who is not interested in keeping. And of course, there's Marcus himself, Jason Carter. Jason Carter is almost a great name for a character as it is. It's like he's just kept Jason Carter. It's got that
Jason Carter is Jason Carter.
Yeah, exactly. Jason Carter and the Princesses of Mars. Fun stuff like that. And of course, Delenn, and this is them as they are taking a look at the new White Star out there that they have out there in space. Here's where, when they're coming in and having the investigation, of course, he comes to Jakar, and Jakar has really been having a change since we first saw him in the first pilot, the first season. Uh, Even for himself, and introspecting that there's something greater to this universe than even his little fight with Londo. There's a greater threat. There's a greater presence, and as he is talking with our esteemed uh, Tucker Smallwood, is the actor, about it, he opens up the Book of Jaquan, the holy text of the Narn people, and look what they have in there. As
Yep.
he's describing that 1,000 years ago, these beings from the stars came down and inhabited the southern continent of their planet. And up to that point, the Narn had telepaths, psychopaths, or people would be not psychopaths, but telepaths, people who were basically with side abilities, and they were wiped out, which was one of the things that in the first episode of Babylon 5 of the movie, he was trying to get genes from not Talia, but Lita Alexander to try to reintroduce that into the Narn society. So here's a little prophetic thing where it starts opening up that we are seeing something bigger and more, nerve-wracking in this universe. Anybody have any take about that?
It's kind of ominous,
Mhm.
the drawing and how simple it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but see that's all it has to be. It's a simple drawing to be as effective as it is, especially for the narrative that the story goes for in this entire season.
And we had a couple examples, like there was your scout ship, there was their main battleship, and of course,
just, 1,000 years ago, it was still as scary as what's happening now. Because the shadows are not something to be messed with, and
they're waking up, and they're mad, they're upset,
right? Because of what happened to them 1,000 years ago, right? Because they were defeated, basically.
You also start seeing more and more about how spiritual Jakar is. He's a very spiritual man. He reveres the Book of Jaquan. He reveres Jaquan himself, and takes this very serious.
We've talked about this before, Baron. That's the one thing, like with the sci-fi. It's I think it's important to show different aliens, species, different races, that they have this religion, or they might have religion. I think it's important. I think it just adds more to the characters.
Right.
And we don't really see that in sci-fi anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, because whether people like it or not, these things are what help form civilization. Whether it's mythology, religions, and why would it be different for another species on another planet?
Exactly.
To not go through that, and how often that legends have a spark of truth to them.
Yep.
And here we are taking a look on board the White Star. Of course, Sinclair is very impressed with what he's seeing on board this ship. I don't know if we have a picture. There we go. The White Star itself. What do you take away with this? I know, what was it? I think Mike, you said that you thought was a really great design, or was it Cash?
Yeah, it's sleek. It's sleek.
I am sure Mike likes it too. Yeah, it's sleek, exactly. And the nice thing about the White Star is, because of the way it's designed and how fast it can go, and it can maneuver really well, which is something you definitely need against the enemy.
It's aerodynamic. It's sharp. You can see it from all angles.
That's true.
I will say, when it comes to Babylon 5 and their ship's design and everything, I like how, they try in Star Trek, but there's a lot of similarities between each of the different groups and races. I like how in Babylon 5 there's no similarities. Not even with the enemy. When you have the shatter ships, it doesn't look like this. And you look at the Earth ships, it doesn't look like this. The ships are unique in design. You look at Earth ships on Babylon 5, they're square. And that's unique to Earth ships. I like the uniqueness, and I will say this, it does help that by the time we get into season 3, the graphics, the designs, the sets, even the different up-to-date cameras they're using to film the show. This is where Babylon 5 this season puts it at the highest point because of that. You look at season 1, the graphics weren't that great.
Well, it's like anything though, Phil. They're just, trying something, and their budget is obviously not as good because it's season 1. So if the show gets picked up, then they should get a bigger budget, I would think.
Right.
Yeah, but it's a big jump from what you see in season 1 and what you see in season 3.
I'll agree with that.
A big jump.
Well, yeah, they're starting to know what they're doing. They're knowing little tricks here, just like when they talk about makeup. When they first put the makeup on something, they say, "Yeah, it took us 4 hours, but we got it down to an hour and a half." So
I kind of like the world of Babylon 5. It feels a lot more in line. I would say a lot more like close to modernism than TNG, which is basically it's one man's ideal future, where this feels like if this was supposed to be a Star Trek future, this is probably more of the outcome that might come of it, because I don't think religion will ever die.
It's more relatable than the future of Star Trek. We're seeing that some of the problems that we have in our own time, not all problems are magically whisked away.
Yeah, you still have some strife and turmoil on Earth. Of course, you have the strife and turmoil between Earth and Mars itself. They talk about San Diego, the nuking of San Diego, not Fullerton, California. So Cash doesn't have to worry about that.
I don't live there.
I know, but you can see that there are things that people are still dealing with. You still see a homeless class on board Babylon 5 with the lurkers, the ones that came hoping for a dream of some sort, and it didn't work, so they're hanging out in what they call the down below. So yeah, it's dealing with the fact that the hope is we're still here. The hope is we're still here. The thing is we're taking on giants. How we're going to take on giants now? How is humanity, and for that matter, not just humanity, everything else, the Minbari, the Centauri, the Narn, the League of Non-Aligned Worlds with the Drazi and the Gam and all the others, how are they all going to work together to usher in this age where the giants are here, but it's time for the giants to leave? And that's something I think that Star Trek really didn't have. You didn't really see the giants still left over. They were gone. You saw what was left of them. But here we still have the giants, particularly Koth.
Well, the one thing I've always liked about Babylon 5 is the inner conflicts. Either if it's with the aliens or the humans, or what's going on with Earth later on, or has continued in the inner fights with the Narn and the Centauri. It's just I find that all interesting.
And even the inner struggles within all these other, what you were talking about. There's that strife within the Narn. There's a strife within the Centauri. There's that strife within the Minbari. The Minbari never don't kill Minbari. But yet, they have little issues amongst each other. So,
and that's the thing about the White Star too. It has a Minbari crew on board. they don't understand English, so Linear has to be the middleman
Yep.
when Sheridan's giving orders.
Yep.
Right.
Linear
You
does.
don't have
Yep.
it. Yeah, you don't have with the translators, intergalactic translators, and all that. And not only that, the one thing we also learned about is the White Star is a blend of not just Minbari but Vorlon technology. So that adds another little twist and everything. So it's like, whoa, this thing should be a little tough, a little tough sucker, and be able to not only dish it up but take it, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, here we have the meeting between Lando and Mr. Molden. And basically, Lando's really getting uneasy, especially with everything he's seen. There's still that conscience this guy has. He still believes in the dream of a supreme Centauri, a second Centauri empire going out there to go across the stars. But even seeing what happened to Narn disturbs him. And of course, knowing that his between his deal between him and Mr. Morgan, and he wants out. Do you think this is one of the? J. Michael Straczynski sat back and said there was a few opportunities that Londo has to redeem himself. And do you think this is the one of them that was placed before him in this?
I think it sets up, Londo redeeming himself, but I don't think it's the one of the main ones.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he got power hungry, and he always wants the best for Centauri. And then you have Mr. Morton who comes along, and you're just like, oh no, Mr. Morton, yes. You have him who comes along, and this is a slick oil salesman. This is a man that, it seems, well, everything can be good, but you don't do what they want after you made a deal. It's just like, well, now you're going to pay the price. But
it's like making a deal with the devil. That's what he did.
That's basically what it is. Yes, he's basically another form of the devil.
Right. Again, he was enforced.
Right. Exactly.
Well, yeah. And the thing is, Vondo wasn't forced. He was tempted. He suckered into it. He listened to those sweet words that were coming out of Morgan's mouth. And if there's one thing, I think I'm probably what I think. There's one thing. Londo doesn't necessarily think about himself for greatness. His thought constantly is on Centauri. He wants those halcyon days back. He wants to see a great Centauri. He wants to live in that. So his thought process is blinded by that more than just himself. Which was a little different than Jakar, where Jakar was himself. He wanted to destroy everything. He wanted to see all the Centauri destroyed. Of course, being a little bit more narrow-minded, he saw the fact that Londo wanted greatness and to expand, and what better person to use for that?
Yep.
And what a great actor Ed Wasser is playing Morgan. I mean, would you want to buy a used car from him or a used White Star?
No, I'd be questioning what he was trying to sell me.
Probably not. No, he's no.
It would be one of those things. Say he was selling the White Star. Oh, don't worry, it's a good ship. It's got a good engine. Then you go to plot a course with the White Star, and one of the engines goes out.
And life support and all that. So Mr. Morden is more than happy to get out of this. More than happy. And of course, his deal is to basically split the galaxy almost in half. One for his associates and the other for the Centauri. And it's like, is this good enough for you, Londo? Is this something you'd like to have? Why don't we leave it at that? My associates are more than happy to go that way.
Even listening to it, it's a deal that the other side is not going to keep its word.
Mhm.
It's not.
No.
I mean, I'll use this analogy. If anybody thinks during or after World War II that Germany, Japan, and even Italy at the end of World War II wouldn't be after each other, yeah, that would have happened. I mean, look what happened with the Allies, the Russians, man. They were allies in World War
Mhm.
II, but look how quick that turned, right?
Mhm.
Same thing,
Mhm.
and it does happen. But the thing is, he's playing on Lando's idea that just like a lot of countries in our world today, they dream of greatness. You think about Russia, Russia wants to think about its empire that it had.
Right.
Mhm.
Same thing. It's awful funny when you see Lando and you see him in this show. You get that
Londo. Yeah.
Lando, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, he has that French mentality,
Yes.
and even that French mentality, even today, you want to say about their hype.
Yeah.
Their hype is the Napoleon era. Everything's about
Mhm.
that. It
Mhm.
still affects the world in our world today, and it affects him in his decision making. He doesn't question, well, this is this group of people, this alien species that he don't know, is offering him half the galaxy, where technically they don't even need the Centauri,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
It's a
No, they
lot
don't.
easier to use the Centauri to do some of
Right.
the dirty work, but
Mhm.
really you have to question it, even as him in his, in his thinking. Uh, why are they really wanting us to be their partners in this? You
Right.
know, but he's blinded. He's thinking is about bringing back the Greater Centauri. That's all he cares
Mhm.
about. You know,
Right.
That's true.
And meanwhile, Morden's using them to destabilize everybody because right now everyone's kind of all aflutter because obviously the Narn have been vanquished. There have been attacks on non-aligned world by the Centauri, so this is causing uh, fractionalization amongst what could be a united front. So of course he's more than happy to let Londo, shake up the hornet's nest and let Londo and the Centauri out there do all this while they do their master plan. And so we have that little interesting thing going on. 30%. 30% of the galaxy to you. How soon until that 30% is no longer theirs? One of the things that they find out also is they want to take obviously this white star out for a nice little spin. And one of the things is that why not try it against a shadow?
Mhm.
And what's the best place? Where can we go about this? Well, there's the Markab homeworld. We witnessed them last season. They've become extinct. The world itself is basically full of dead people. It's a graveyard, and being being assaulted or basically being looted by scavengers across that basically tomb world. So why not try out our little white star and battle over there? Of course, you can also notice that right there, Delin having the kind of the main weapon of the Rangers, which is a pole that pops out and basically you can beat people over the head. And obviously, Delin knows about it. And of course, let's take on some of the baddies that we have in there. The symbol of the Rangers itself, where they say that it comes together when it's white hot with a drop of Minbari blood and a drop of human blood. So the Rangers are already something where they're bringing human and Minbari together to do this war. The Minbari themselves, a portion of the Minbari leadership or whatever, are very uncomfortable by this. Needless to say, they're not going to be happy about the White Star because it was done without the Great Council's knowledge.
Mhm.
So it's like they're getting themselves a little guerrilla war, getting ready to take care of the whole situation. Boy, she was a beautiful one, Mira Furlan.
Yes, it was.
Yes. Let's investigate. So, yeah, there's the picture, of course, the last picture of Kefir, who
right before the
yeah.
light came and basically killed him.
Yeah, he saw the light, go towards the light.
Mhm.
And of course, as they sit back and say, anyone who goes up against a shadow vessel never lives.
Yep.
And it's about time. Of course, they're showing all these, trying to get the reaction from members of the Babylon 5 team about all this. What's this? What's this? What's your knowledge on this? And they're kind of playing dumb. They don't want to let their hand be known that what's going on, because who knows what's going on. They don't trust Clark. And of course, we know already that Morden and the Psi Corps are up to their necks in all of this, from little conversations. Having our little conversation with that one. But when they go and do that, of course, here's Kosh explaining that, I was tired. You tired me out. There's a lot of pictures on this. I'm trying to get to some various pictures, but basically, as it goes, they do take on a shadow ship. They do survive, and they manage to do so by blowing up the hyperspace gate over the market homeworld, which caused the shadow ship to shrinkle up and die. Oh, there we go. Unfortunately, they didn't show anything like that. So, that first battle, David and Goliath, basically.
Mm-hmm. And of course, they're all apprehensive about doing that tactic, because if they get caught in that shockwave, they're going to be destroyed as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. You don't want to. Yeah, it's nothing to. What would you say? Sniff at. A hypergate blowing up like that is not a good thing. Not a good thing. Especially
No, it's like an atomic bomb going off.
Mm-hmm. And they also suspect that you kind of get stuck in time, so you're kind of in a little personal hell between two worlds if you're caught in that, and with no way to come home. So, yeah, you don't want that to happen to you. Your opinion about this episode before we go on to the next one. It's kind of setting up the war the bonehead maneuver. Thank you, DJ Ronnie G. The bonehead maneuver. Why didn't you do that? Yeah, because it's dangerous.
Thoughts on this episode? Well, it's a good way to start off the third season. It's a good way to say, okay, this is the starting marker for this season. We're continuing what we've done in season 1, season 2, and now we're bringing it into season 3. And hold on to your butts, kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to get wild.
Grab your floaties, right? Is that what you say there, Krit?
Yeah, get your floaties, get your storm.
Get your rowboat.
Now it's it's brilliant or something like that, or just accept what you're given. Accept your meal. That's something that's new now.
Oh, is that a new one? Accept your meal? Yeah, okay.
Accept your meal. Never heard of that one.
You can't get any pudding if you don't eat your meat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, from Pink Floyd.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's funny.
Yeah, how can you have your pudding when you haven't eaten your meat? Yeah. And of course, also before we continue on, every episode of this season written by J. Mike Krasinski, which, not to get political here, but with the writer's strike coming, with what they sat back and got their demands on, would never happen. Schmucks. So
no, it wouldn't happen at all, considering they want to have 10 writers in the writers' room for a show nowadays.
Just
right.
Even just 2, you can do a lot. Even one person, it's obvious you can do a lot with it's just willing. What are you willing to do? Are you willing to put in the research, the time and stuff? But you want 10 writers, and it's like, well, how many of them are all going to agree on the same idea? Maybe half, maybe less.
What makes it worse is when you have modern shows and they have how many executive producers, how
Right.
many producers, really, technically, you need one executive producer, maybe two, but producers, maybe two. But you really don't need to. You only need one producer, one executive producer. That's it. That's it.
Right.
The producer is mainly there because the executive producer can't be there.
Right.
That's the only reason. But if you look at your most modern shows, you'll see it's almost a joke. You'll see like 5 or 6 executive producers, then you'll see 2 producers, and that's 7 people.
Mm-hmm.
You
Well, yeah. And the
And
executive
Or
producer,
associate producers and the special consultants and
yep. And as far as writers, I would say most of the show should ever have is maybe 3, but there's shows that I'll use an example: Battlestar Galactica, the original series. That's one season that it was on TV. Them writers were writing scripts before the other script was even finished.
right.
I mean, sometimes you have a good writing team, they can do something like that. I don't think you can do that today, where you're writing a script and you still have to write the script for the one episode and the episode that's coming up. Normally, there's a gap there. They might have 2 weeks to write, maybe even 3. These people that were writing scripts for that show were doing it practically by the end of their filming. They're ready to do the other that quick.
Well, and of course, what about the special circumstances going back to the Battlestar Galactica first, in 78? Originally, all Battlestar Galactica was going to be was the first movie, and then of course the second one when they go to the Lords of Cobalt, and then possibly have some movies here and there through there. But ABC decided, hey, I know, why don't we turn this into a weekly series? So there was like last minute stuff. These guys were chomping last minute, literally, to get things through. I don't think the writers today can handle that pressure.
They didn't expect it because if you remember, I'm not trying to get off topic here, but do real quick. They did it because they canceled Marvel's Captain America, and they needed something to fill in that slot. And that's why that turned out the way it did. Something similar happened with Castle from ABC. They canceled the show and they needed something to fill in the gap. They never intended Castle to be a hit like it did. And that went on for 4 or 5 years. And that was a major hit.
Nathan Fillion, man. The guy is just like Tom Selleck and some of these other guys. They're just leaders. Scott Bakula. They just lead these shows.
But I think a good writing team in a modern sense, if you have 2-3 people, even if you have some assistants included there, a good writing team makes the difference. And, some shows have it and some shows don't. Having 10 people doesn't mean make great writers,
Well, are they willing to do the research? Are they willing to, stop worrying so much about certain check boxes that if they don't add to the show, then it's just another agenda. So
I would say in modern in let's say the last 20 years, it's been openly abundant, but it wasn't unheard of even in the 70s and 80s to throw in a little snippet there. It might have been hidden, it might have been buried underneath some of the dialogue, but sometimes they were throwing stuff in there too. That's not nothing new. They were throwing.
Well, yeah, I mean, Straczynski was doing it with this. This was his Star Trek. This is where he was putting his thoughts and ideas in there. And how could and again, being that this is almost a 30-year-old show, Straczynski being a producer, writer, going to the set, promoter, he's online answering people's questions left and right. How many people can go on that treadmill and be able to survive? Doing 22 episodes a season, writing them out, sitting over, producing all the stuff that's behind it. People coming, asking questions left and right. What should we do about this? How should we do about that? Him going down, checking, making sure things are going okay on the show. Then going to Usernet and then answering all these people questions. How many of these people can do that today? They really can't. I mean, they can fire off little tweets here and
Not
there.
not many. And
No.
he loved even to this day, he loves his Babylon 5. He protects
Right.
it. You know, this ain't going. He ain't George Lucas just to say, "Here, take it away. I'm done." You know, he'd been trying for, like I said, the last couple of years to get stuff out of Babylon 5, but unfortunately, somebody was in place that was stopping it from happening. You know,
Right.
We could have got what we got now in that movie. We could have got this 10, 15 years ago. And maybe have been live action and probably made money. It would have been a great hit.
It might have been. Yeah.
But I give him all the props for showing that how much he cares for his stuff by, hey, originally he was putting behind the 8 ball. He managed to get it out there. He managed to produce it, write it, and everything. The only other group of people that I can say that's similar to what he's done was the creators of Back to the Future. You know, they protect it. Even right now, they will not let anybody or anything try to influence them 2 guys that own it. They're not even in their wills. They even stated this. Both of them. They're not going to have the problem that they have with the Tolkien family. They're not to make anything. What the 3 movies is the 3 movies, no remakes, no rehash, no more additions. It's done. So I give the guy that created Babylon 5 all the creations, all the props for being hands-on and how he protected it and nurtured it. Like I said, you can look at the first 3 seasons. You see it grow.
Yes.
And like I said, for me, season 3 is the high point of it. You know, not that for me, I know other people aren't happy with 4 and season 5. You know, I'm fine with it. You know, but season 3 for me, it's like it went from a Pinto, and we're now in a Mustang. That's the best way I compare season 3. You know.
Well, yeah, it definitely a show a maturity of the show. And another thing also about Joe Szynski is not only does he have a love of the show, he has a love of the fans. He loves the fans. He really does. He knows, he knows it's because of the fans that he got these 5 seasons. He knows that there was the loyal people that were on Lurker's Guide and the user net, going through and reading and boning up and learning about this universe and, okay, what's happening next week? I can't wait for next week. I can't wait for next week. Oh, we're coming to the season finale. Boo, and such. Moving on, we have the next. Oh, anything before I move on here?
Yeah, the only thing I would say, and to this day it's still mind-boggling about this episode, is that table. That table irks me. Yeah, go back to the table shot, and I'll tell you what irks me about it. Look how the table is set, but look at the end where Delano's at. Why is there a gap there with a special little round circle at the end for her? Is that like what they call the inner sleeve when you have a dining room table and there's not enough room, so let's put a sleeve in there?
That's probably what it was from, Phil. A dining room table. They just repainted it, and
but look at the gap there. Well, there's a gap there.
Yeah, well, you got on both sides. You have it on both sides.
That's what I'm saying. I've never seen the table,
I think it's just them trying to do a futuristic design,
Exactly.
It'd be me. I'd be the type of person trying to put my cup down and it'd be falling through the holes right there. That would be me.
Well, yeah, we know that would be you, Phil. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So moving on to the second episode of the season, it's called Convictions, and they have a little situation on board Babylon 5. There's a mad bomber running around on board the station. He happens to press the button, and good old Jakar and Londo are caught together inside the lift tube on there. We are also introduced, again, going to our discussion that we've had about religion. we have a group of people that join up, and that is an order of monks that are led by Brother Theo, who is played by Louis Theron. And for anybody who knows, Louis Theron actually played the first drawl in the first season of Babylon 5 before he was replaced with John Schuck. And so they are looking for basically going out, learning more about the universe, about other religions that are out there. Trying to see the face of God through their order. They are from an actual real order from New Mallory, as he says. That's where that's the abbey that they're from, and then, of course, the name Theodore, which means gift of God. So again, an atheist, J. Mike Wazinski, is giving a respect to religion and knowing that in the past how monks were very influential in keeping knowledge alive, and here they are in the future doing the same thing in their own little way. Of course, basically saying, if you give us space on board Babylon 5, we'd be more than happy to help you out with whatever you need. And they start finding out that these guys are technical wizards. It's like, you instantly assume, these guys are in these monk habits. They know about technology and how to do all that stuff. No problem. So that's basically what this episode is about. Is the interplay between Jakar and Londo on board this lift. Basically, how Jakar isn't going to lift a finger to help Londo. Basically, as he sits back and says, for every Centauri that's killed by a Narn, so many Narns will be killed. So what better than not to do anything and let you die by yourself? There's nothing in the rules about me not doing anything to help you. All those little chinks, you might say, in legalism. So boom, there they are. Lanier actually helps save by, I believe he pushes Londo inside there, and he gets kind of the main brunt of the explosion. And as you can see, there he is with his little burns and such, recovering in med lab. And of course, needed to say, there is Delenn watching over him because she adores the man. And our great Dr. Franklin, Richard Biggs. And here's the face of the bomber. Nice guy, huh?
Oh, yeah, real nice looking guy.
Mm-hmm.
He plays the psychopath very well.
He does. Patrick Kilpatrick. And needless to say, he's got Sheridan also kidnapped under PPG, and makes it known that, hey, he's more than willing to blow up the station. There's a little device for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's the race to time to not only get Jakar and Londo out of the lift, but to find this guy before he causes any more harm. Okay, now it's discussion time. I mean, it's a very simple episode. It's very much more of a character-driven story than anything else, especially between Jakar and Londo. But the thoughts?
Well, that's just what I was going to say. It gives us more moments between Londo and Jakar.
Mm-hmm.
Which anytime you get Peter or Jurassic on Andres together, they just eat up the scenery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can chew it. They can chew it without making it look like they're chewing that scenery.
Mm-hmm.
It's not overacting. It's natural. As we can see here, of course, there is Brother Theo trying to work his charm, trying to figure out. Of course, they find out explosives. They're able to trace the explosives and where they came from. So Brother Theo is trying to find all this information out so they can pinpoint where this man is. So all these medieval-looking monks around all this equipment. I love Brother Theo. I don't know about you, but I love Brother Theo. I wish they would have had more. And before we go here, Phil McCracken unfortunately does have to leave us. He's got another project to go to. We will miss you, obviously. But any
Here,
last words before you
here.
go, Mr. McCracken?
I just want to say something real quick. Thank you for having me on. I do
Always.
like the monks. The monks. I think they should have stayed on there.
They should
Uh,
have.
I like the
Yeah,
monks.
I agree.
I like the monks more than I like Byron and his.
Oh
whatever
yeah,
you
well
call
that's
Yeah,
a no
I will
brainer
say this.
for a
This
lot of
is
people. Uh-huh.
this is the only downside with the show. When they get really good characters, they kind of just disappear sometimes, and the monks just disappear from the show. I
Well,
don't
they made
know
a
if
few
they're
more
like
appearances.
setting up stuff. Yeah, but they just disappear. I would expect
Yeah.
them to be at the end, but I didn't like how they just disappeared from the whole show. As they brought something to it, and then we got Byron and the holy telepaths.
Cash Money's favorite character on the show.
No.
And
That
favorite
whole
song.
Cold thing was just bad.
Um,
I can't believe Paul knows that song. I'm just it's funny too because Paul still needs to watch the show. He watches 2 episodes and he's like, I can't do this. Like I'm not trying to throw Paul under the bus. I'm really not, but I think he just needs to give the show a chance. And it builds. And I just feel like with even Krit is in his generation, and Krit can have enough patience to say, I'm enjoying this. But with Paul, you're just not sure. I just hope he gives it another chance because I think he might end up liking it a lot.
Right. Well, I think that's
it
kind
was
of the
a great
problem.
show. I think it's a
Mhm.
great show, and this is season 3 is probably for me the best of season 3.
Mhm.
But
Right.
sadly, I have to go, guys. Yeah.
Okay.
Have a good stream, guys. Thank you for having on, and hashtag let's
Yep.
keep Baron's lights on.
Have a good
Well,
night, Phil.
Later,
yeah, for
everybody.
that one,
Have a good
yeah,
one,
for that,
Phil.
Phil,
Oh,
there
yeah,
we go. The lights went out there,
lights
Phil.
out.
Thank you.
Good night.
Take care, Phil.
Later.
Next time. Hmm. But I can't remember something I was going to sit back and say, but what can I?
There's just a lot of interesting things in Babylon 5 from the monks. There's certain things that may not be as interesting, but it's also interesting how characters feel about each other. You're like, oh, like Ivanova, for example, we find out that she actually probably had some kind of thing with that woman, but they make you care about the relationship, and you're like, oh, all these different relationships, what happens with Sheridan and Delenn is very interesting, but they build it because J. Michael cares about those things so much because it's
Right.
important, I always feel. But
Well, I think, yeah, now I remember the thought I was going to have. It's like, unfortunately, this generation that we have now, with the TikTok generation, they want everything handed to them now. They don't have that. They can't wait for anticipation. It's like everything comes out. A show will come out at once, so they binge everything at once, and they don't have that anticipation. They don't have that feel of growth, or be able to sit back and to appreciate that. It's like, oh, this is boring because we haven't gotten to the crux of it is. And it goes to the old saying, it's the journey to the destination. It's not necessarily the destination, but the journey to it. And that's where, when you get to that destination, it pays off. And Babylon 5 is exactly that. And with the introduction of the monks, I think it does something better than a lot of science fiction, even Star Trek. And of course, anyone who sits back and say, I'm just going to be trashy on Star Trek, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. Don't get me wrong. But I think what Straczynski with the show is, not only are you seeing the dynamics of the other species out there in space, but you're seeing much more diversity of even humanity. In this example right here, where you have, the military, monks, different parts of the world. Obviously, Ivanova, who is Jewish and still has faith, even though it's strained. All across the board, I think it has a more in touch that there is a lot more culture in the world in the future, where Star Trek kind of starts going over. We're more homogenized now. That's why we can't have any arguments with each other. because we're all one
Oh.
kumbaya.
And there we go.
One big happy family.
Right. One big happy fleet.
One big happy family.
Mm-hmm.
And tough many.
And as we can see, is the anguish of Jakar inside the lift and tormenting Lando Milari, and their interplay back and forth. It's like Lando is just shocked that Jakar would be willing to die when by not doing anything when he could have do something and they'd live. Both of them would live, but he'd rather not do anything and have Lando die, even means his life to go.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Did anybody else lag just now? This must have been just me.
Just a little bit on my side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, YouTube. Or maybe thank you, StreamYard. I mean, amazing how look at what he can do under all that makeup.
Yeah.
Just to look.
He is a quality actor.
Yeah.
Mm,
And even without all that makeup, Jurassic, But basically for them, it's, here we are all locked in here. It's all a waste of time. Of course, as you can see, things are not looking too well on Babylon 5 with all the bombings. Last thing they need to have on board the station. Oh, I see he still has his teeth. So that's basically the gist of this episode. It's a simple little episode. Again, it's not really involving heavily with the overall story arc, but again, it goes into the crux of the characters more. And Lando is very appreciative of what Lanier did for him. And Lanier, of course, making a joke, let's not do this again type of thing.
Yep.
It's so funny. Shang Tsung is there. I think that's one of the first times I saw that actor because I had not watched Babylon 5 back then. And it's just like he is one of the reasons why that movie is so good. Like it's a good quality film, and he's definitely one of the reasons. And Raiden, but yeah, this man's been acting for a long time. He even had a small role in Balls of Fury, which was funny. He makes it great.
I believe he was in a show called Space Rangers. That lasted like about 4 or 5 episodes on CBS. But about the time the pilot movie came out for Babylon 5, needless to say, that show didn't last, and he moved on, and there he is working with Garibaldi. Boy, it'd been nice if we would have stayed on the show longer.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a thing where they just couldn't afford him to stay longer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Lando watching over Lanier, talking to Lanier, talking his ear off, wanting to get him out of coma because, he does feel indebted. And that's just it. That's another thing about Lando.
Yes.
If he feels he's indebted to someone, he honors that. So there's still a sense of honor among Lando. Because there is honor amongst the Centauri.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's more than willing to be there for that. Of course.
Well, that's the whole thing. This is, if you're looking, I would say, like research of characters, even, it's funny, like you can even look at soap operas. It just depends what it is. It's just how much different sides of the character has, how much dynamic it has. And, we need, I would love to see more of this kind of stuff again, more characters like Lando. It's like, oh, is he evil? Not always. And it's not that he's just misunderstood. Right.
It's because the characters on Babylon 5 have been fleshed out.
Exactly.
Right. They're basically real living, breathing people, even though they're on paper and brought to life by actors and actresses.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts on conviction? Obviously, they get the guy. Station doesn't blow up. There we have the little boom booms.
Boom boom.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Lanier is waiting for Dylan to come back and being harassed. I mean, it's got. There you go. There you go. Cash. Their picture of.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, any last thoughts on this episode before we move on to the next one?
None that I could think of.
Claudia Christian's hot. That's all I have to say.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah, she is so beautiful.
Time to search the AI site.
Yeah. Settle down, Buckaroo. Settle down.
Easy there, boy. Easy there.
Mhm. Okay, so we're going to the next episode called "Day in the Strife." They got some interesting name for episodes he comes up. And Sheridan Ivanova tried to deal with the Association of Cargo Pilots. There's an alien probe that makes contact with the station, and Jakar's position among the Narns is threatened by the arrival of their Centauri-approved liaison. So we do get a return of the Centauri, the not the Centauri, sorry, the Narn that helped out Sheridan on board the alien ship when he was kidnapped, and he is known as Talon. And he is comes in with the Centauri appointed liaison as basically his, I believe, bodyguard in that. So now we got the two things. Is you have the displaced Narn ambassador, Jakar, and basically the toady to the Centauri, Nafar. With that, of course, like I said, we had a little thing with a probe coming, and it's promising all these wonderful things if you manage to get the clues right. And it's called basically they're calling it a berserker probe, which is something that's taken from Fred Saberhagen's book series. If people are not familiar with it, so there's not much more on it. Again, it's a little bit of a filler episode. Hello, Leah Rose. How you doing? You just missed Phil. She is the president and sole member of the Phil McCracken fan club. Just to let everybody know. And lovely lady too, by the way. And so we also have another situation. Veer is leaving the station, and he is going to be become a what would you say? Not an ambassador per se, but adjunct or I don't know how would you say it, a counselor to the Minbari homeworld. This brought on because Stephen First was getting involved in another show at the time, so that would be helping out. That he's not gone from the show, but he's going to still make guest appearances and be still a part of it. So, and of course, at that time, Mondo was going. It's like this is what I need you the most. So, this is obviously shows how powerful Vera is to Londo, and Londo's realizing that.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are again. It does go into, like I said, it goes into a bit more of not necessarily heavily involved in the storyline, but again, more character shuffling around and getting into who people are. And there's good old Sheridan and taking care of their little strife with the cargo people. And here we get the contingent of the Narn. So again, we have strife between the Narn and Narn. Anybody? Boy.
Oh yeah, the Narn. Could I see a couple more screenshots of that?
Oh yeah, more than happy to do so for you.
Oh yeah, the division amongst the Narn. Yeah, that's I remember that. Yeah, that was interesting, and I liked how Narn was kind of their leader. So
yeah,
right, and he wanted right. If I remember, he wanted Jakar not to. He basically wanted to take over Jakar's place. He felt he was kind of weak, if I remember correctly.
Well, and not only that, it's like he's the last vestige. He's the last member of their circle of government, and it can be a danger. He's a danger in the eyes of Centauri. So knock him down. Put this Toadian in place of it, and try to get the Narn to step in line with the Centauri overlords, you might say. And now he's got to deliver an impassioned speech of why not the situation. We also have, of course, as we can see here, more and more of Dr. Franklin taking steps, going down, which we'll be seeing later on. Of course, this is opening doors to future episodes.
Opening doors to a route I really didn't care for.
Yeah, I didn't. I agree with Krit and Mike on this one. I just thought, and then where he's going to go on around the space station and go on this journey and stuff, and I was like, really? But it's just they just kept dragging it out. Yeah, the walkabout, right? They kept dragging this out, Baron, for whatever reason.
Yeah,
this out, and
I'm doing drugs, and now I gotta stop what I'm doing, and
I gotta go to my walkabout, and I gotta complain about it
so
for 5
bad.
episodes. It was just like no. And then then Franklin became the character I've always liked after this whole drug thing was over. But I would have to ask Michael J. Like, dude. J. Michael, excuse me. J. Michael, what were you thinking with this, man? Like, seriously, why did you want to drag this out so much? It's one thing that they could have got it done in 1 or 2 episodes. No, this actually dragged out throughout the whole season. It's crazy.
Yeah. Of course, Jakar is packing to go, and of course he's given I love too the luggage, and there's all the Narn are like the little stickers. I love the little details on that one. But of course, he's given the pep talk to stand up and reclaim his spot. Vera saying goodbye. But you have that berserker probe, which is kind of where that picture had with Franklin, where he's got to get his part of gaining the equation of what they are trying to say with this probe, and because if they don't get the answer right away, the probe's going to destroy them. If they give the answer, the probe will say, good kiddies, here's all this wonderful stuff for you. Have a nice day. So they're going to the different divisions and trying to contact Earth, trying to get all this information. And there's the Berserker probe in its full glory. There we go, orbiting the station. And of course, someone figures something's not quite right with this.
Right. It usually would be with a situation like that. It's just, that you got to figure out some code, or you're going to get it blown up or whatever. It's just going to get killed, or it's like, wait a second here. Yeah.
So they don't give the information. The probe goes on, and when it gets to a certain distance from the station, that's when they transmit to the probe, which blows up, which, of course, is the Berserker probe. They find out that this is a probe that's sent out by a civilization that if it can't answer those questions, they're not a danger to us. But if they can answer the questions, they are. So let's eliminate them. A little twisted, isn't it? And here we have the happy reunion between Sheridan and his Narn fellow captive on board the alien ship.
Right. Yeah.
Go through a couple more pictures here, and looks like we have a nice little meal between Stephen and
your drug problem. What are we gonna do about it? I don't got a drug problem. I can keep it under control. Blah blah blah. Yeah.
Be quiet. Eat your pasta. Enjoy the salad. Enjoy the bread.
Right. Exactly.
Gosh, yeah.
But of course, Garibaldi's coming from the approach that he was an alcoholic.
Right.
So it's like, I know you got a problem. I want to help you, man. It's like, I don't have a problem. It's like,
right.
It's almost kind of taking the page out.
This out. Yeah.
Right. I mean, they could have done it, but not as long as they did.
No, exactly. Didn't have to go through the whole freaking season.
Mhm. And of course, the one thing about Veer leaving is where we have this scene between him and Delenn is it was his idea to have Veer leave because he wanted to keep him protected.
Right.
He didn't want him corrupted. There was still
Yes.
he saw there was an innocence and idealism in Veer that he had when he was a youth, but he didn't want it
Mhm.
to become jaded and destroyed and tainted like it's becoming to him. He's already seen his
Right.
flaws, and he's protecting Veer, but he also knows that he needs Veer.
Mhm.
So it's like, will you please take him, please send him to Minbari and keep him safe, watch over him, which of course they do agree to.
Mhm.
Kind of interesting dynamics when you start seeing all these other parties getting with the connecting together. I mean, here you have a scene between two aliens, and you think nothing of it.
Right.
No, because that's
Nothing.
how again fleshed out the characters are.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. How important this is.
Mm-hmm.
So Veer goes off to Minbar. Probe blows up, and we have Jakar keeping himself as kind of the de facto head of the Narns uh, basically uh, in sanctuary or in exile. There we go. That's the word I wanted to say. Exile. And of course, even then, Londo doesn't like this guy.
Can't say I blame him.
No, not when you have someone who's willing to be a worm like that. Londo has more respect for someone with passion like Jakar than the toady like this guy.
Right. This. Yeah.
Any last thoughts on this episode before we move on?
Not really.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Oh, very good. Okay. And again, it's it's not a powerful one. I mean, it's powerful, but it's not powerful in the sense of the having to go with the season. Hey, look at that! Look at that. So the next episode we have in line is passing through Gethsemane, and this sees the return of Lita Alexander to the station, basically at Akasha's behest as his assistant uh, on there. So as you can see there, that's kind of her and Londo connecting with each other. Not only that, if you notice, she's got gills, so she can breathe the methane atmosphere. So it's like, what did they all do to her on the Vorlon homeworld? What you know? What did they do with the psionic powers, the physical body itself? What exactly is Lita Alexander now? After going to the Vorlon, being the only human that we know of besides Sebastian, that go to the Vorlon homeworld and come back. We also have a little situation where one of Brother Theo's fellow monks has a hidden past that not even he knows about. Brother Edward, played by Brad Dwarf. I always have a hard time with his last name.
Well, of course he has a hidden past, Baron.
Yes, he was a twisted mentat to the House Harkonnen. That's what he was. Petra Deviz himself. Now, just one little note: this episode was directed by Adam Nimoy, Leonard Nimoy's son.
Hmm.
So, this young monk, who Brother Theo has on board the station, has a past, but there's things that are happening on board the station that is causing them to have what would you say, flashbacks, being tormented, you might say.
Oh,
uh,
I'm sure this monk's a good guy, Baron.
mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
as
Some
we
ladies might
know,
even say he's a doll.
uh,
And here is, of course, Brother Theo and of course, doing of course last rites on a gentleman on there with his face. Actually, that's the Brad Dwarf right there. Actually, he's kind of coming to the ending of it. And the tormenting. There he is, brother Edward. And what we find out in this episode is he is actually a serial killer. That was, I believe, on the Mars colony.
Yeah.
He would leave little trinkets behind, and he was assigned death of personality, a mind wipe.
Yep.
So he was basically mind wiped and then given to the monks' care to live out the rest of his life, which he is more than happy, very peaceful, happy serving the monks, not fully aware. But then he's getting tormented by that guy right there. Kind of looks like David Marcus, if you ask me, but it's not. Because his sister, I believe it was murdered by the man. Now he wants to have revenge. And it comes down to the big question. The punishment has been dealt with.
Right.
Basically, that personality is destroyed. This is now a different man, per se, personally.
Right.
And does that person deserve to be punished? It's an episode that Straczynski wrote, basically going about forgiveness, because he doesn't understand it. In fact, this episode, there was a nunnery where all the nuns got together and actually watched Babylon 5. And when this episode came around, they requested if there were a way they could get a copy of this episode for them. And he was more than happy to send them a copy because they thought this was a beautiful episode of Roman Catholicism.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, it's well, it's the whole thing about like, oh, the mind wipe. Is it complete? Will there ever be any side effects? And obviously, realistically, there is a possibility that they would start remembering things, and if the person was bad in their other life, like actually a serial killer or something else did bad things and they start remembering, then it just means that, because I've always said this, technology is not always a sure thing. And so there can be problems and there can be side effects, especially if you were wiping somebody's mind, because you're obviously using technology to do that. And so what would happen, of course, if they started remembering? And I found this episode very interesting, and it's always pretty much stuck with me because I love this whole idea of, well, what would happen? It seems like, oh, we're making somebody better in society, but we're really, in another way, we're just making them, I would say, almost like a drone. We're brainwashing them. And so what would happen if when they find out that they're not the person they thought they were? And this is like, this could definitely be a realistic situation. I like this episode a lot.
It's a very good episode. Brad Dourif is very good in this episode. And for those of you who may not know who Brad Dourif is, if you've ever watched any of the Child's Play or Chucky movies, he's the voice of Chucky. That's why I was doing what I was doing earlier.
I figured that's what you're doing. Yeah. Of course, he was also in Voyager, I believe. Kind of playing the same part. And of course, like I said earlier, Dune has Peter DeVries, the Twisted Mentat. So yeah, I mean, definitely a quality and I believe award-winning actress. Didn't he win an Academy Award? I can't remember. I could be wrong, but he's
I think
a
he was
great actor.
nominated, but I don't know if he's won. I have to look that up.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. I have to put. Of course, the episode name is "Passing Through Gethsemane," which you can obviously has a very strong biblical theme to that, and going with the fact of Jesus going to Gethsemane to pray, and Peter and the two other disciples falling asleep as he's waiting for his imminent betrayal by Judas. And yeah, I mean, you can see slowly as he's being tore apart, and he's still this Edward, but he's getting the nightmare of the man he used to be while he's being tormented by this this Hunyuk that's wanting to have revenge. And I guess you could start talking about revenge in this whole thing. It's like, where do you go from justice to straight out revenge? And he's willing to face his tormentor, his accuser. And of course, there he is with his talking with Brother Theo about the whole thing. And Brother Theo obviously doesn't want to do that. The strife he has, his faith, what's the man to do? He's a very talented, gentle man that has been working with the station since they've been on board there. But he is killed. We did see those images earlier of his death. And there he is as being the bad guy. It looks like he's right out of Lord of the Rings playing Wormtongue. And he used to put a black rose in the woman's mouth. That's why he's being tormented by seeing these black roses being left around. It's kind of firing off whatever is left of memories that he might have had. And he's getting tormented. Death walks among you. These little messages are being left for him just to torment and tear down essentially an innocent man. The shell might have been guilty, but the mechanism inside is not the same. Okay, just good. But in the end, of course,
by the brother, by the brother because he killed her sister,
right,
and then he was on the ship, right? All right, it's a lot more of that's come back to me.
And of course, right here also we get as we're going along, we have Londo and Lita having an exchange, and he's wanting to know information about the Vorlon beings because she was there. He's willing to threaten her, and she's willing to sit back and say she'd turn his brain into spaghetti. Don't F with me, basically. And would you want to F around with Lita Alexander? I mean, besides other than the fact that she's also hot, I mean, it's just.
No, with her, I wouldn't want to F around and find out.
Right, exactly. Unless it's the good effing around.
Unless it's the good, it's the hanky panky.
Right. Of course, we have all these signs. Garibaldi's on the case, but he sacrifices himself. Now, of course, there she is getting all the examinations, make sure everything's okay to be on the station because they're all nervous about it. But there's a discussion between the two of them because they find out what's going on, and again they talk about justice between the two of them. Where Garibaldi sits back and says, "Well, I'm kind of an eye for an eye kind of guy," and she's saying, "Well, that start leaving the world blind," type of thing. So you have a little bit of the different approaches where Garibaldi believes in basically, hardcore punishment. Delenn not so much. But at the end, he is taken. He's hung on a cross-like thing, which of course has symbolism, of course, to Christ's death. And as we saw that picture before in the beginning, there he was laid out and had a last rites. And that's the other. I'm just forgive the fast. I want to get back to that because I wish we would have had that later. But there he is with his death, praying over him, last rites, the death of. And that's him basically getting tormented before he's cut down and saved for the short amount of time that he left. But then the twist comes. The man who did this to him is convicted. He's mind wiped and returns to Brother Theo.
Right.
As a monk. And Brother Theo is kind of chafing a little bit at that. And Sheridan has to remind him about forgiveness. Which is powerful because even people in positions like that have a tendency to kind of forget that because, again, our emotions gets involved. That the person who's coming to you, yes, who he was, did this horrible thing, but now, just like Edward was, he is now a new man.
This episode reminds me a lot of a episode from In the Heat of the Night called Sanctuary,
Mhm.
which is a good episode in itself. But basically, it was. I think it was an illegal, or an illegal. Not sure if it was a legal alien or someone without really. I don't. Maybe I don't. Maybe they didn't have a green card. I don't remember. But he was on the run from. Or what happened was he was this character, this man. He was working in a. He was working in a jail sack, and he was only in jail for something very, very minor, and he decided to run away. And he goes to this monastery, and they hide him. And Sheriff Gillespie, they find out he's there, and but they can't really do anything about it because he's on the county. He's on the county police side rather than the or I forgot it was the state police or the county, but so but the basically the monks refused to give this man away because he asked for sanctuary.
Right.
And this episode kind of reminds me of that in a way, with the monks and how humble some of them can be and helpful and
Right. One of the statements here that JMS had, he goes, I'd rather not say anything about Gethsemane because a large part of the plot turns up something you need to discover mid-viewing, and anything I might say would only detract from it. It's a lovely, sad, very moving story. It's kind of my Twilight Zone story in the B5 universe, with some very strong emotional twists as we go along. It's not the kind of story I get to do within the B5 universe structure very often, and I'm extremely pleased with this one. And Adam Nimoy did a bang-up job directing it. He thinks it may be his best work ever. And I have to sit back and say, this is one of my favorite episodes of Babylon 5. It's definitely in my top 5 on it because it's one of those that is different, but different enough. It delivers a story that, like you said, is big, is powerful. In some ways, out Star Trek in some aspects.
Yeah, that's credit to J. Michael Straczynski's writing and also the acting from everybody who was involved with this episode.
Yeah, and that's just it. Everybody was on top form on that one. Any last thoughts on this one? Whether it be Lita coming back and her little encounter with Londo, and obviously being touched by a Vorlon. This little poor situation with our Edward being tormented, murdered.
I'd say watch this episode if you really want to know what Babylon 5 is capable of. This episode definitely shows you what Babylon 5 is capable of when it comes to writing and story and the characters that are involved and different situations that Babylon 5 did go and explore that Star Trek wouldn't explore because of the rules that Star Trek had set by Gene Roddenberry.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, and it's one episode that you don't have to be knowledgeable in the story arc at all because it is a standalone. So, so yeah, dive into it. Anybody else on this one? Hearing none, we will go to the next episode, which has a share of. There we go. There we go. Lovely lady, isn't it? Lovely,
a viper,
lovely
man.
lady.
She's a viper.
Yep. So the episode's called Voices of Authority. And we have a situation here where basically the crew want to try to get in touch with the first ones, the giants, as we're talking about before, and see what they can do to get their help with it. Uh, and Sheridan is working to hide that whole conspiracy that they have going on from Night Watch. And this young lady here happens to be someone that's from like the Night Watches, and she's trying to get information. And we have John Shuck coming back playing Drawl himself in it. So, when you have John Shuck in there, you're going to have a good position on there. And remember, of course, we still have Zach in there. He is a member of the Night Watch. So she has her little run-in with Zach on stuff. Obviously, she doesn't think much of him. But she's got her sights on good old Sheridan because, well, he's the head. And if there's anything going on, where do you go? You go to the head.
She's got her sights set on him in more ways than one.
Oh, yeah. And, she might be a little snake in the grass, but she's doggone beautiful. I mean, there's no doubt about that, which is a deadly thing. It's a deadly thing. And, it's been a tool that's been used by those that are going to want to get information on all men. Well, we'll use our sexy charms and good looks. But then there's that viper underneath. And of course, we have someone like Ivana, who is just straightforward. Don't piss her off.
Mm-hmm.
So they're wanting to get in contact with the old ones. Obviously, they want to be able to get some help, and they do have that knowledge that Sigma 957, where good old Jakar rescued Sinclair's girlfriend from her encounter with the first one. So that, of course, would be one of the first places to go to on that. So while we're doing all this, trying to get this going, you got this pesky Night Watch lady coming in, doing her inspirational speeches to the crowds and trying to get information. And yeah, I mean, you can see right there the intensity of, okay. She's a perfect woman for Jace. Hi, Jace.
Yum.
Good old. Mm-hmm. And you have Zach there. He's kind of, you can see that he's conflicted with what he's hearing, what is going on, which is kind of important. He's asking questions, and she doesn't like that. No, he's wearing the armband, but where does his loyalty lie? Is it with Earth Force, or is it with Night Watch in the Ministry of Peace, as they call it out there? So as they go along, they go down to the great machine down below. Oh, there she is. She's wanting to have Sinclair go where every man's gone before, I believe it is, that Ivanova said. And that's the one thing. When Ivanova got into the machine, she was in the machine. She was able to project her hologram around like Drawl was able to. And needless to say, she comes into this scene where she's trying to seduce our good captain.
Mm-hmm.
And probably gets shut down. But Ivanova. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, it'd be kind of hard.
I don't know if I'd be able to resist.
Mm-hmm. But as Ivanova is going through that the machine, she travels and she starts seeing this. She traveled a little too far, and Drawl needs to help bring her back because we are now taking a look into the eyes of the shadows. And now the shadows knows that there's prodding going on. There she is, looking a little more, nice. Not so intense. Their interplay as she's trying to get the information and getting shut down by Sheridan. But she's wanting to get that information. She's, of course, Sheridan's trying to push everybody by. But now this comes kind of to an important thing. Garibaldi gets a late night visit from Jakar. Jakar is suspecting something's up, and he's not part of it. So he leaves Garibaldi his book of Jaquan to look through because he feels it will help with what's going on down the road, especially with the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's like why me type of situation. You have that with Zach trying to figure out what is what now. Who am I? Where am I going to be? And little conversations, but and of course conflict between Zach and Garibaldi, because Garibaldi is more than happy to question him on this stuff. Like, where your loyalties lie? He needs to know. He was shot by someone he trusted before. He doesn't need to happen again. But Ivanova finally gets in contact with one of the old ones, which say Zog. Zog. And that's how they project their image of what they look like. Whether or not that's truly what they look like or not is immaterial. And they're not wanting to do much with the humans until she basically drops something insulting, and that's the Vorlons said that you wouldn't be any help. Well, we find out they don't like the Vorlons, and that's an insult, and they want to show the Vorlons up. So they'll be more than happy to join along. So here we are. They're going on there. So now we have those two situations. You have the basically trying to get this worm guided around Babylon 5 without knowing too much. And then, of course, we have them meeting giants, opinions, people. Thoughts on any of this?
Giant boobies.
Giant boobies. Okay.
Space Fabio, I like to call that character.
Oh, Marcus? Space Fabio?
Yeah.
And he has the hots for her, that's for sure.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah, well, they have history as well. So,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on this episode? Any more about this? What's going on?
It's a good episode, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Especially seeing how Sheridan deals with somebody trying to get information that she really doesn't need to know.
Mm-hmm. And more importantly, it would be damaging.
Mm-hmm.
But still, that's too tempting.
Like I said, I don't know if I'd be able to resist.
It's hard. Yeah. And then,
there's a hologram of Lita. I mean, not Lita, but Ivanova. Copied in. It's like, oh.
She's like, oh boy, I came in on a very interesting situation that I wasn't expecting.
And so, what's the best way to distract? Let's kiss this trollop, for lack of a better word.
I mean, that look on our faces. What the heck did I just hologram into?
Yeah. And the look on Sheridan's face is like, yeah,
is definitely trouble, but she uses her sex appeal to get what she wants. That's quite obvious.
Right. And Ivanova in the Great Machine. And one thing I like about this, you can see her freckles. I have a thing for freckles, I admit. Mm-hmm. But there she is in the Great Machine, trying to find out where the Great Ones are. And of course, like we said, she runs into shadows out there, which is not a good thing. Of course, John Schuck as Draw, again, as always, a great actor. Anything else on this episode before we move on to the next one? I think we'll have time for one more episode.
All righty.
Watch it. Definitely watch it. It's worth watching. It helps move the story along.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's all part of the story arc, but still, it's good to stand on its own. And there she is being the ice bitch to poor Zach.
Zach, dude. Another
Poor
quality
Zach.
character in Babylon 5. I like Zach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was a
Jeff
great.
Conaway was a great actor.
Mm-hmm. Too bad his demons caught up to him.
Yeah.
So I think we'll end with this one, this episode here that we have coming up. It's called Dust to Dust. Anyone who's been watching Babylon 5 would know that dust is a name of a drug, but we never really knew what dust was all about. And this episode happens to have a return of everybody's favorite telepath. Can you guess? Oh, come on. Everyone's favorite telepath.
I've been talking a lot there in this live stream. I'm trying to give
Well,
someone else a chance.
Bester.
Bester.
Oh.
Bester, of course.
Walter Gannett comes
But
back.
that's why I call him Douchey LaDouche.
We're in class now.
Well, I'm trying to see if you guys are awake. You know, it's like,
We are awake, trust me.
are you sure?
Like I said, I was just trying to give someone else a chance to talk.
But we have this dust that comes in here. Of course, being that it is something that causes a normal like us to be able to have ability of a telepath, which is dangerous in the eyes of the Psychor. But even so, it causes lasting damage to the person who uses it if they keep on going with it. But somebody gets their hand on some. Who could that be? Because he wants to know more about what's going on.
Jakar.
And he does take it. And I hate these pictures because they're all the later parts of the episode. But he takes it and assaults Londo. And dives into Londo's brain. And while he's in there, he has an epiphany of sorts. And I'm just going to bring it up here and actually go backwards.
That's his father.
He sees his father. He's hanging from a tree, dying. I believe his big crime was he spilled a drink on somebody. Horrible crime. And they have discussion back and forth between the two of them about what's going on with Jakar, the destructive path that he's going with Jakar, trying to steer Jakar the right direction as they're having this conversation. And at the end of that conversation, the big epiphany happens. Again, he sees Jaquan, or their variant of their angel, going into the sky. And this happens to happen between him, and we find out later it is Kosh. Kosh is behind the whole thing on that one. They bring him back. Jakar is obviously found guilty. Goes to court and he's sentenced to jail in there. But he still insists that Garibaldi keeps his book of Jaquan and to learn more about it. And of course, they find out who all the people are that's going out there dealing with the dust. And good old Besser's happy, goes his own way at the end, if you want to call it that way or not. Jakar is definitely a changed man, but in some ways, so is Londo in the whole thing. You know, obviously he beat both Lear and Londo, dragged Londo away, forced his way into his mind, got that epiphany, and now literally it's like night and day. That's probably one of the best things that happened to him. He finds out secrets about Londo as he's talking inside the mind with Londo. And Londo is sent to Babylon 5. He finds out basically it's a joke. He was the last man. Nobody wanted this assignment, but the Emperor finally comes to him. He's the last guy. It's like what he thinks is going to be prestigious a position actually turns out to be a joke. And good old Jakar finds that out, that how all this stuff is affecting Londo in this whole in all these matters. It's basically the strike of the ego. You think it's going to be great, and now it's not. You're a joke. You're a nothing. And yes, he wants to be something more, but it's all for Centauri.
It's
and
Centauri.
Of course, everybody's favorite penguin next to Bunkwall is Los Bic minus Locktop. Welcome to the show. Any ideas and thoughts on this episode? Because again, it's another one where you have that powerful between Jakar and Londo. I mean, Andreas Katsoulis and Peter Jurasik just having that powerful emotion.
I thought the part where Jakar goes into Londo's mind and finds out that it was a joke that Londo got the position on Babylon 5. I thought that was very interesting to find out exactly how Londo became the ambassador for Babylon 5.
I'm trying to remember, how was Jakar able to get into Londo's mind? Wasn't there a telepath around? Oh, it was the dust.
He took dust.
Right.
It was the dust. Yeah. Right.
That's right. Okay.
Right. So Bester, Bester said that the core was working the dust, and somehow it got sent out, and now it's not a good thing. It's definitely not a good thing in their opinion. So he's got to team up with Garibaldi to try to get the dust back and out of people's hands. And as we find out, of course, good old Jakar got his hand on it and was able to get into Londo's head.
Right. That's right. Because because he takes this as an opportunity of, I can find out what Londo knows, and then if I remember, after the dust, doesn't he also find out about the thing about Mr. Morden as well?
No.
Oh
no,
no,
this is
that's right.
No.
He doesn't. Okay, we're not there yet.
This is right. No, this is all about basically both the character. We find out much more about the details of Londo and Jakar when they're youth. What drives them on, and it's the humiliation of Londo that's driving them, and it was the death of his father, of Jakar's father, at the hands of Centauri that drives them on. You start understanding more both these characters of where they are at this point in this universe.
Right.
Don't they make a great team?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. I was just gonna say. I found it interesting through the episode, Bester and Garibaldi working together, and it's just an interesting dynamic, to be honest with you.
It was.
I love this whole thing about about this whole thing about Bester and stuff. Oh, we're not your enemy. Always this thing about we're not your enemy. I'm like,
right. When they think they're the next generation of evolution of humanity,
exactly.
And for that to happen, the others must fade away.
Yep.
That era superiority.
And
if anybody doesn't think Walter Koenig can act, they haven't watched Babylon 5.
I agree. I agree.
I mean, you can see he's enjoying playing this role. Look at the look on his face.
Yeah.
That's not just the perverted enjoyment of Bester. That's the enjoyment of Koenig playing this perverted character and being able to be something other than a little Russian on board a starship.
He's sinking his teeth into the role, into the part, if you will.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, dare I say, him doing Bester is far better than him doing Chekhov, and that's not slighting him playing Chekhov.
No, Chekhov's not a bad character, and he's got
not at all
quirky and the Wessels.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Pavlov Chekhov is a joy in Star Trek. He does a great job with it. But you take that loving Russian and then this vile slime.
Yes, this guy's slime, definitely.
You appreciate Koenig's ability of acting and think that, and I think he does this even better. To be able to do this, and it just
I think it was a breath of fresh air that he gets to play a brand new character that he helps create. Yes,
Mhm.
J. Michael Straczynski writes the words on paper for the script, but he gets to be the one to act it out. That being Walter
Mhm.
Koenig.
Mhm.
No.
And
And
let's.
and real
Mhm.
quick, I would love for there to be another animated movie and Bester's involved. I would love
Yeah,
to.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, even if it's down to the side, the War of the Telepaths or something. Yeah, just getting him in there while he's still with us,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
because now he's in his 80s. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, there's Jakar taking the dust. Obviously, it's not a pleasant thing.
No.
Oh, no, it's just Koenig. Yeah, I mean, when you get them all together, it's how can we do this? How can we do this show? I mean,
You
the
can.
dynamic, yeah, and him just playing off of Jerry Doyle.
Yes.
I mean, you think this is buddy cop, but it's not.
No.
Oh, there's
But
the
ag-
dust.
but again,
Yep.
that just shows the quality of acting on the show, where you get two actors in Jerry Doyle and Walter Koenig, and they could just play off one another
Hmm.
and make it look natural.
Right, that's the important thing. Make it look natural, just like Andreas Katsoulis and Peter Jurasik with them, and Claudia Christian with everybody. I mean, it just drug deal gone good here, But this is one of the things where actually Koenig's heart attack actually worked out better for him, because from a part that he was going to have as night 1 or 2 or whatever in that one episode in this Star Full of Sky, Sky Full of Stars, which would have been a one-off, he was able to do Bester and come back every season, and more than one time a season. So
Hmm.
he if there's one good thing that came out of that heart attack, as bad as that was, it was to do this. So
Yeah.
okay. Any last thoughts of this episode? Because I'm sure I'll be coming and start wrapping this up.
Watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Watch,
Yes. Watch
well,
it.
I
watch it.
mean,
Watch this dang show. Just
what else?
so
What
good.
else can I say? Watch it. Yes, like Cash just said, watch the show. It's worth it. You
Hmm.
won't be bored.
No.
No.
Yeah, if you want true interplay of characters and the banter and the dialogue and the drama, and of course action. We can't forget there's going
Mm,
to be action too. But I mean, honestly, you can only blow up a city so many times with superheroes.
yeah.
You can only blow up Babylon 5 once.
And one of the things that's great about the show is it doesn't matter if it's our heroes or those who we consider our villains, like Bester. Nobody's perfect in this universe.
No.
They all have flaws.
Yes.
Hmm. Right. Everyone does. Everyone does. Even Ivanova, as much as we love her.
Yes.
Mhm.
She does have
Sh-
flaws. Yep.
Sheridan's got flaws. Garibaldi has flaws. Franklin has flaws.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and and part of that is that hero struggle with their flaws to be better.
Hmm.
And that's, I think, the one important thing people are not getting nowadays. You need to have flaws. If you don't have flaws, you don't have a hero's journey.
Right.
Or
You don't grow
a
as
villain's
a
journey.
human being if you don't have some flaws,
Hmm.
something that you have to overcome, something that you
Hmm.
have overcome in your life.
Right. And I love this where they got Dylan to bring in a bunch of telepaths from Mimbari to basically block out Bester's abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, Bester. Ain't that nice?
No.
Mhm. Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone here. Well, first of all, let's just go to our people that came in here. I want to say thank you, Jace, for coming by and spending time with us. Of course,
Mhm.
Phil ran off. So there, Phil ran
He
off,
was here.
but he was on the panel as well, and I think that he was here. DJ Ronnie G in his Turtles of Infinite Doom. That's thank you.
Whoa.
Our lovely Leia Rose and Low Spec Linux laptop. And of course, I want to thank my friends on the panel here, every one of them. Mike from Pacific 4 and 4, Cash Monet from the Phantom Hooligans, and of course, our Lord Krit from Everest Production.
Well, I appreciate you asking me to be a part of this, Baron, because it's great to be able to sit down for an hour or two and talk about a great show and 5 great episodes like we did tonight.
Actually, 6, 2, 4, 6.
Well, okay, I lost count.
It's a great show. It's always a great show to talk about. So,
right, and I couldn't
Very
imagine
enjoyable show.
I couldn't imagine a better group than you guys to talk about this with. So hopefully next week we'll be able to do part 2. I have a feeling this is going to go about 3 parts because again, there's going to be a little bit more detail, I think, in some of these episodes that we have for Babylon 5. If you haven't watched it, folks, watch it.
Absolutely, you can't just go through these episodes, especially of this season, and just skim through them. You know, give the basics. You want to get to the meat and potatoes of this season and the episodes that are involved in this season because there's a lot of good episodes coming forward.
And before we go though, everyone, these guys' channels are in the description. Please go to them, subscribe to them. First of all, Mike, do you have anything special coming up that you want to talk to people about?
Well, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Sunday edition of Pacific Forum for Pop Talk, we will be talking about some pop culture and entertainment news. Some of it's fun news. It's not all the doom and gloom stuff that's out there. Some of it's fun news. And during that show, there will be the second hour open panel. And for those who missed the first one from last month, there are still the guidelines that I do ask everybody to follow. They are in the description for tomorrow's live stream, and I will show them and talk about them before I start letting people in during the second hour.
And unfortunately, I will not be able to join you for that one, sad to say, as much as I'd love to, because my birthday, having a little birthday stuff there tomorrow. And
well,
I am
that Baron, that's more important. Have your birthday
It is, man.
lunch / dinner with the family.
Exactly.
Well, more importantly, all you can eat shrimp. So all you can eat shrimp always trumps all of you. Okay,
exactly.
I will sell you all. I will sell you all into slavery for all you can eat shrimp. So,
wow.
Well, I was going to be a little nice. So I was going to say, you and Cash have fun on Pop Talk. I'm going to go have all the shrimp I can eat.
He just wants to take the shrimp. So look at this
and
guy.
I put in, of course, the chat the link to that episode that's happening tomorrow. So so put that down and be ready and go join Pacific 4 and 4 tomorrow for that. Anything else for you, Mike?
Nope. That's it.
Okay, great. Now we go down to Akash Monet of Phantom Hooligans. Anything special for you?
Yes. Around 10, 12 my time, because there'll be a lot of other stuff going on tomorrow, I'm sure, watching shows or doing something with my brother. I don't know. Yes, I'm going to finally get that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart going. So I'll play that for a few hours. Probably start about 10 my time, Pacific Standard Time, or even maybe around 12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I've done streams in the past that time, so we'll see how that goes.
That's why you fall asleep on our stuff all the time.
Barrett, you had something good going. It would work for the Babylon 5 talks. Kosh money.
Kosh.
Oh,
I'll remember that next time. And
boy.
of course, there's the link to our esteemed Kosh money in the chat there.
Yes.
Anything else you have planned there, Mr. Kosh Monet?
I'll just be doing that, and then I'm still working on those demo impressions. So those hopefully will finally come out soon. I just want that stuff to sound good, and just trying to come up with new stuff that I never did before on my Twitch channel about 7 years ago. So yeah.
You're moving on up, moving on up.
Now I'll be also putting more stuff on Rumble too. So since I have that
Rumble.
access to it, yep.
And so is Pacific 414. So go ahead, and I don't have access to the information on that for the going there, but yeah, definitely go to Rumble side and see what's going on, especially Wednesdays for Pop Talks that last hour.
Okay. I can get the links on the Rumble side. I can log in real quick.
He'll do that, folks. He's not kidding. He can do that. He will do that. That way we can move on to our favorite orca, who has been out there sinking ships and eating 3 otters at one time, as I saw in a news story. Anything that you have that you wish to? And I do have the link to your channel in the chat as well.
Do you got a what if going on? I'm doing some experiments with Heir to the Empire. Probably won't release it on YouTube, but I'll probably play it on Discord or show it off. Yeah, I've started on Heir to the Empire. So that might get people some nostalgia. Well, actually, that's not being released anyway. I've been mainly working on my what ifs. I am going to work on a new one with Cash Monet with Thrawn after that disaster that was the last few episodes of Ahsoka. So yeah, we got some stuff, good stuff coming planned, and my channel's growing thanks to a meme video I did. So I'm getting out there.
Wow.
Hopefully people can grow their channels too, but I'm glad that it's taken me a while to get to this point. So
you worked hard for it, Krit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, man.
Yeah, maybe I need to produce more clickbait. I'm just kidding.
more orca videos. That's what you need. What you need is more Phil McCracken. Okay, and I see Mike did put those all in. Did you get them all in there?
I'm still working on it. I got Cash's Rumble. I'm just gonna get mine last. Krit, have you made a Rumble yet?
No, I don't think I'm looking into it.
That might be a good place to put your ear thing to. Go to Rumble with that.
It's good for a backup, but other things, more freedom of speech, and it still seems to be that way. So that's good.
But yeah,
there we go. Pacific 414. Okay, now we got in there. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight again, and I will wish you all a great evening. Hopefully next week will be for part 2, and of course catch everybody on their channels and have a great time. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope everyone has a great evening.